maybe we can start off with you sharing a little bit about who you are and what got you into applied behavior analysis from the get-go. I always find that to be a pretty interesting story.
Yeah, it started many moons ago. I right out of high school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I knew I loved working with kids. I babysat all through high school, was interested in psychology, but I also had music going on in my life, so I was still trying to figure that out. So a family friend, their son was getting ABA services, and so why doesn't Erin try out? Try this out, try this field, and see how she likes it. So I applied and started. I remember it was like September of 2005 when I started there, and I was given this family that had a son that was just recently diagnosed. So he was only 3 years old, very young, and this family changed my life. It changed my outlook on everything, and I had a really wonderful supervisor too. So I kind of got thrown in a really great situation right out the gate, and it really, I was there when he said, "I love you" to his mom for the first time, and even just a greeting to another kid or interacting with another kid, and to be a part of that changed my life from then on. And then as I started getting more kids on my caseload, it was getting just better and better. And I got my undergrad in psychology. And I just really focused on that for about a year and a half after I had my daughter. I really wanted to finish up my degree and be a mom, and learn the ins and outs of being a wife on top of it too. So I did that, and then I went back. I decided to go back to work once I finished, and I was doing child development. So I was a child development specialist. So I worked with children 0 to 3 years old, with all different types of needs. I had some kiddos that they just got home from the NICU, and they needed support with their motor movements and all of that. And I found myself really utilizing a lot of ABA principles throughout the entire time I was there. And, I remember I had this one little girl that she engaged in a lot of dangerous behaviors. And I came up with this token system for the parents. And within a week, there were no more dangerous behaviors that she was engaging in anymore. And I realized, I'm like, okay, I need to get back into ABA. I'm utilizing it so much. I really want to get back into an agency that really focuses on ABA. So I set my feelers out, and I got a call from someone who was starting up an agency, another startup. And I met her. I remember it was like I was their first employee. So met her at a Starbucks for my interview. And immediately I was like, okay, this is it. And she was incredible. I'm so indebted to her, because she made me love ABA to a whole other level. And so she took me under her wing, and I decided to apply for grad school to pursue ABA and to eventually become a BCBA.
You said a couple things there, and thank you for sharing, Erin. It sounds like that you've been really fortunate that you've had the opportunity to work with a few other, organizations that really had nice support structures for you. And you said a couple things in there. One of the ones is that when you got exposed to ABA, it changed your life, and that you found yourself applying it even when the job wasn't necessarily under the umbrella of ABA, but you were applying some of the strategies and loved it so much. What is it about applied behavior analysis that what is it about it that kind of impacted you so much that it kind of causes you to stop and really take a look at what is this science and what's going on here?
Well, to me, it was like, it just seems so much like common sense. Like I I think especially how I was taught, it was like, why didn't I think of that? That seems so simple. And I think sometimes we almost overanalyze things. It's just humans. That's just what we do. And to have it being broken down into steps basically is like, oh, okay, that makes so much sense. And
Yeah.
I really liked it. I really just enjoyed learning about it and what it, the foundations of it is. So
It's always fascinating with applied behavior analysis, the objectivity to it. It's very research based, and the implementation is founded in extensive experimentation with really objective results based off from also peer review.
right.
And the exciting thing is we take so much data and
Mm-hmm.
graph all of that data that the outcomes are so tangible
Yes.
that you get to really just grab right a hold of it and
Yes.
hold on to those outcomes. And what an incredible responsibility to have. I mean, how does that, how has that worked for you over the years of the notion of having this profession, loving doing this work, committing yourself to families who, for lack of better words, not to overgeneralize, have a level of stress going on,
Right.
aren't familiar with applied behavior analysis, but having to kind of go into homes with that weight of responsibility. How has that been for you? I mean, I personally know, like, the late nights staying up, being like, the commitment that we have, the
Yeah.
ethics.
I, the responsibility, I mean, I'm not going to lie. There's been times where I've been up all night thinking about a family and how I can support them. And it has, impacted me. I think it's just, maybe it's drawn back to my own parents being, like, my mom's a nurse. She was an awesome nurse. And being kind of that caretaker and always wanting what's best for other people. I would definitely say I got that from my mom. And that's something that has kind of overflowed into my work. And having that responsibility is almost reinforcing to me, because I get to be a part of making a family's lives easier, or seeing that behavior change that they thought might not, or a doctor saying like, oh, this probably will never change, but then being a part of that. And it's just incredible. I will gladly take on that responsibility for a family if it means that they'll have some peace in their home.
When it does come to human services, just the very notion that you and I and the rest of the people that we are fortunate to be working with, for lack of better words, publicize that, hey, we're here,
right?
And we believe we can help. By having the capacity to say that is, I mean, that's a huge statement to say when you're talking about being a servant to families. With all of that that you bring to the table and all your experiences in engagement, you could have went probably anywhere. And this is, now we're going to talk about AAI, so I apologize. What brought you to Autism Advocacy Intervention, AAI?
So at my previous agency, like I said, I started out as one of their first employees, and it grew rapidly. And, they moved into a bigger clinic, which was farther away from my house. And I was the only supervisor at the time that was going to the clinic, to homes, to the school, but I was also a mom and a wife. And I was really struggling to find that balance. I was also in Los Angeles, which is, the families there have access to hundreds of agencies. And as I was trying to figure out this work-life balance and there was something missing. And not only did I recognize I'm not having this balance, but these kids had just unlimited access, and I wanted to be part of something a little bit bigger. And so I started doing more research of, what other agencies are out there. Is telehealth an option? And as I was like reading through, Indeed, and seeing agencies, I was starting to see telehealth BCBA or remote BCBA. And I was like, what? This can be done? Are you serious? And so I applied to AAI, and I got a call from Linda, who I love chatting with. I remember I was in the car chatting with her, and her just explaining, like, we work in communities that do not have access to ABA regularly. And at that moment, I was like, this is what I need to do. I have this amount of experience. I think I can take this to the next level. Please hire me, So yeah, we met, and then I met with you, had a wonderful interview.
I remember.
I told you last time, I'll never forget that interview because my kids were home unexpectedly that day. And here I was, I'm like setting them up with a movie and some snacks. Like, okay, we're gonna be good. And there they were, like 10 minutes into my interview, just pounding at the door. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I probably did not get this job. And just how you came out and you said, Erin, go handle it. It's okay. I'll be here when you get back. And from that moment, I was like, this is the agency I need to be at, because not only do we get to disseminate our science to communities that don't have access to it regularly, but it seems like I'm going to be able to really balance my home life as well. And previously it was a complete mess. I didn't feel like I was being effective as a BCBA because I was always on the road, or I had to tend to my kids, or it was opposite. I was never home. So
Yeah.
I just could not find that balance. And then when I met you guys and I onboarded, it was like this big sigh of relief for myself as a professional, as a mother, as a wife. And it's been like that ever since. It's been consistent for over a year now. And I am the happiest I've ever been professionally, personally. And I thank you to that. Like that moment that you said, Erin, it's okay. I was like, that was it for me. I was completely sold. So
I appreciate that. And I also appreciate is your level of diligence and dedication and commitment to the day-to-day responsibilities that you've accepted, you handle and you excel at. And that makes it that's our system.
mm-hmm.
If we can follow through with what we say we're going to do
mm-hmm.
to a level of excellence, there is a value system that's inside AAI that will explode for you. And it's an absolute, total, complete respect of that balance.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, as you know, we're not a billable driven agency. We're driven by supporting ourselves as human beings. And if that place is done well and right, then we have the opportunity to support these families exceptionally. Mm-hmm. And you do that. And you also today, so maybe you want to share a little bit about when you were employed, what was your role and what's your role today?
When I first onboarded, I was a program supervisor, and I loved it. I still engage in some parent education because I just love it so much. And then came October, Danielle asked to meet with me and asked me to take over as director of the telehealth department for California. and it's been wonderful. It's been such a learning curve. I have loved working with the BCBAs, and getting to collaborate with them, and just see their, I mean, things, just because I've been in the field so long doesn't mean that I know everything. So they have taught me so much where I'm like, man, if I knew this 6 months ago, I could have applied this with the other kid, that one kid. And so that's been really great. And then a couple weeks ago, she asked me to take over the entire telehealth department, working with all of the supervisors within the agency in Vermont and in California. So we're slowly starting to transition that as I kind of wrap up some things with just California, and we're going to have a team of about 10 BCBAs, which is insane to me, because when we started, I remember it was just Danielle, myself, and Andrea in the telehealth department. Now we have 6 of us in the California health department, and now the other regions have more BCBAs. So it's pretty incredible. That, I mean, I still have to pinch myself sometimes. I'm like, is this happening to me really? Like, this is so surreal and incredible, and I'm just blessed to be given this opportunity to support BCBAs, to support families, and children and these communities. It's pretty spectacular.
One of the things that, I mean, we have to talk about is the idea of an agency growth and what that means,
Right.
when our value system and agenda as an agency is to be highly focused on morale internally, which again is about the capacity to do our job well and have all those support structures
Right.
that are there. You hear about it all the time.
Right.
BCBAs have an unethical amount of demands put on them in terms of billable hours or caseloads, or a significant separation between, for lack of better words, and I have a hard time even saying this because it goes against my belief, but upper management, I'd rather say we're kind of a flat system here. But that division that can happen with growth, something that's made me, I'm petrified over that, of losing kind of touch. So what do you think we need to be, what are we doing? I don't want to put words in your mouth, okay with in terms of growth, and what areas do we need to be, careful about from your experience? You bring a lot of experience, to the table from working with other agencies that have, expanded quite a bit.
Well, first off, I mean, keeping our billable hours low and not being all about that really relieves the pressure. That is something, as agencies grow, they're like, oh, let's up our billable hours. I've seen that happen many times. And then it would boil down to, okay, I only saw my supervisor once a month when they need to be here once or twice a week. So I think AAI is doing that beautifully. Making sure that everybody is involved, doing check-ins, making sure like, okay, yes, we're growing. Are you guys comfy with this growth? Do you need us to pump the brakes on something? What is it that you need? And I mean, I know for sure, I always go to my teams and I check in with the BCBAs and ask them like, how you doing? Is everything going okay? I know there's a lot of changes coming this week. How do you feel about them? And, I think having that open door of communication it's everything, because I know that if I said something in a previous agency, or agencies, it would be like, sorry, it doesn't matter. We're going to keep growing, so having the existing members of the agency have a say, and they're heard. It doesn't mean that like, oh yeah, I'm going to take it and run with it and we're going to do this. It just means that, yeah, I hear you and we're acknowledged, is huge. I think that is, that will make growth as simple as, it can possibly go. It could be smooth sailing. Things to look out for is, when changes do happen, sometimes there's miscommunication. So somebody thinks that so-and-so communicated X, Y, and Z to so-and-so, and it just kind of gets lost in translation. So making sure we kind of have like a directory of who do you go to for this? Who's going to disseminate this information? Who's in charge of this, so that everybody knows who they go to, who's, the role that each person has. Is extremely important, because I remember there was a time where I was having so I think it was like admin issues, something with the billing or something. And I'm like, wait a second, who do I go to? I don't know, because we have a HR person, we have a billing person. So I remember that happening at a previous agency, and it was just like I had to jump through like 3 hoops to get to the person I needed to get to. So,
Sure.
making it very clear who does what, who to go to for what, is extremely important as growth happens. Making sure we're not thinning schedules of reinforcement too much, because sometimes that can happen and employees begin to feel kind of left in the dark, or they want to grow. And so making sure we're kind of ahead of the growth, instead of them having to come to us for growth and for that. So I think that is extremely important, as we keep going. And from what I've seen in the past, I don't want people having to feel like they have to advocate to move up. Of course, there's times where it does have to happen, but there's times where I think that we can avoid all that by acknowledging, the growth. So
Yeah, I know that we talk a lot as a group of people. What does it mean to provide those opportunities for professional development? And it takes a lot of attention on things. I mean, as you know, like you said, when you came on in, we were this size, and today we're this size. You've worked in a lot of different environments: in-home, clinic, school.
mm-hmm.
And today you do telehealth.
Mm-hmm.
That's your primary focus. Can you talk a little bit about providing your supervisory support historically, face-to-face, in those different environments, and now today finding yourself, for lack of better words, a telehealth BCBA practitioner?
Mm-hmm.
What's working, what's challenging, what's lost, what's gained, that kind of stuff?
There's a lot working, and I think, and I joined AAI before the pandemic happened, where it became kind of a regular thing. So like I said, I came into it completely green. I was like, okay, this is brand new. I've kind of been in every setting that you can possibly be in. This is going to be new. And I won't lie, I had challenges in the beginning. I wanted to jump through the screen and get right in there and be on the floor with the kids.
Yeah.
And, because I loved that. I loved being, hands-on like that. However, you become very creative. And I think that has been my favorite thing about telehealth, is how creative you have to get with teaching skills to RBTs, to parents, running those preference assessments consistently. And you kind of almost have, I feel like I was overcompensating on every level. I had to up my communication game. I had to up my creativity game and thinking outside the box. I think those are all things that have been pretty successful to this point now. And that just, it seems to work. You're open, you're always available. That's what is so great. Is I look back in families that I had in the past, if telehealth was an option, they would have more access to parent education, because it wasn't really emphasized, and if I was able to offer that, I think they'd be fully on board, because families have busy lives. They have jobs, they have other kids, they have other family members they have to care for, and having this option has just been amazing. It's been incredible. Areas where it can be very challenging is sometimes connectivity issues. That seems to be
it's very real.
number one thing. that could be, super challenging, and can sometimes frustrate parents because that response effort to get on can sometimes be a little bit much. But we always find solutions. We always figure it out. I had some families that were in such rural communities that they didn't have access to Wi-Fi. So I was like, okay, we really got to think outside the box with this. What can we do? And we made it work. We made it happen. By sending them videos when they did have service in certain areas that they could download and then review when they get home. Lots of different things. And so that's been a challenge. Sometimes, just only being able to see, I always say the 8x10, I see just a little frame, and sometimes that can be challenging when really there's somebody in the other room that's, evoking behaviors or whatever it may be. So I think something that, again, kind of overcompensating, really, really relying on our RBTs to let us know what's happening in the environment, show me around the room. And I think that is huge for telehealth, is that we get to have so much involvement and so much collaboration with our RBTs, because they are the boots on the ground. They are the ones in that environment. So lots of different things, but for the most part, there's a lot working. More things work than don't work. And most of the time, the things that might not be working, we find solutions for. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You've been spending a lot of time also engaging in parent training. Mm-hmm. And part of that also is your working relationship with
child welfare.
Thank you. Yeah. Apologize. Yeah. So you've been spending a lot of time engaged in that, and it's been a really, for lack of better words, a shining star of an engagement when you're helping with children getting reunified with their families. Mm-hmm. Can you share a little bit about the parent training and that program also that pretty much you had started and have helped develop?
Yeah, I mean, I went in with the guidance of Danielle. She had previous experience with it, so that was super helpful, because I think I would have been, okay, what can I do? What can I not do? But she was a wonderful mentor as I started that out. And it's really no different than what I've been doing in the past. It's basically running a preference assessment. How do these parents learn? What are their learning histories that we need to reverse? And so, I basically tailored a curriculum for them that would fit their learning styles. I made it fun. We did Jeopardy games. We still do them to this day, and they love it because you get to get some competitive nature going on, and lots of laughs, and retaining this information, which is pretty awesome. And then we join them on their visits. So we Zoom into the visit with the social worker, and we get to kind of watch them engage with their kids. And I like to I definitely take everything into consideration, because I know these parents don't get much time with their kids. So I'm not going to be in there, evoke behavior. It's going to be very natural. It's going to, as it comes up, okay, let's coach you through this right now. We do a lot of priming ahead of time. I'm able to kind of observe the child and see, okay, what are their triggers, and how can we come up with some antecedent strategies to kind of steer the behavior a different direction. And it's been extremely, extremely effective. It's been a lot of fun, for lack of a better word. And just seeing these families going from not really understanding how to engage with their children to playing with them and following through with things that they were scared to follow through with, or do, and changing their own behaviors as well, and working on their own coping skills through challenging situations. And it's all because of ABA, everything comes back to that. So it's been a really wonderful opportunity. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I hope I can continue, providing.
it's such a cool thing to be able to know that you really work very hard at something that's not necessarily always a walk in the park,
Right.
but you can also say at the same time, it's really fun. What
It
an
is.
interesting thing.
It is.
Generally speaking, most people would see those things as polar opposites,
Right.
but that is one of the nice things about the work that we do. And for those people that enjoy this work, there's a lot of access to, the reinforcement.
Yep.
So last question, I'm going to throw at you before I do a closing celebration of you, is what would you say to people who are not only curious about working inside this profession of applied behavior analysis, but what would you say to prospective people who are interested in doing this line of work or do this line of work as BCBAs and are interested in exploring coming to AAI?
First and foremost, they're going to find support. They will find that if I don't have an answer, I will get you to a person that does have an answer. We have such a great collaborative team. My BCBAs, like, when we have weekly meetings as a group, and I sometimes like to open up the floor. Like, even though I might know some of the stuff going on with their cases, I may not have all the answers. Let's get perspective from everybody else. And the collaboration is incredible. Just 2 weeks ago, we had one of the best collaborations we've ever had, where we were given all these resources that I didn't, I knew about, but it was one of those things that's been tucked under my belt, like, from a long time ago. So pulling that out was really cool to see, everybody work together to find a solution. You'll find growth and support in your development as a professional, or somebody coming in as an RBT that is, like, really enjoying ABA and is kind of on the fence about, like, do I go back to school and do it? I will be your biggest cheerleader and say, get back to school. Let's set up some goals. What school do you want to go to? What do you want to get your degree in? Let's get your hours going if you're going into grad school. So the support is nothing you can find at an other agency. You will never lack that. That is the number one thing. You'll always have a mentor, always have somebody in your corner. Also, you're going to be able to disseminate our science to rural communities. That is huge. That is something that a lot of people do not have access to, obviously. So being a part of that and getting to these families it's just so reinforcing, so incredible. And another thing is, you're going to have fun. We have so much fun in our group. I mean, our group meetings that we have every week as BCBAs, we just enjoy each other's company. This past week, we talked about all of our values, which was really awesome to see, because we all have similar ones. And I think, somebody brought out, is like, that's why we work so well together. So it's really awesome. We have fun. You're going to enjoy your job.
Our team is growing. And that's one of the fascinating things that I believe makes us somewhat different than some other agencies, is that with our growth become tools and assets and more skills.
Yes.
We should become better individuals. I'm better because of you. I know that. I mean, that's tangible. I have my toolbox as a BCBA is huge today in comparison to where it was as an individual practitioner, because we're so, like you said, you bring everyone together and you meet and you are able to be, I guess, infrastructure is designed to provide those skill sets so we can take those too and expand our support structures out into the community. So Erin, I got to tell you, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're busy.
It's all good. This was awesome.
I do. This was super, super great. Lots of fun hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for perpetuating, that discipline, that adrenaline to do the work, to be the professionalism, that intimate professionalism that we like to exude to families, and just making us better than we were before. You were part of the team. So
Thank you.
keep the insight coming. Yeah, and thank you dearly for all of your hard work. And I can't wait to see, what tomorrow brings for all of us. And when we get to stop and keep looking back on reminiscing on the journey. So
yes, I'm so excited for the future of AAI.